GNX. 3 letters are the title of the new Kendrick Lamar album, and I would argue that there are 3 different Kendrick Lamars on this album. Kendrick the Car, Kendrick the Prophet, Kendrick the Rapper. Let's get into my analysis. Thank you for auditing the Always Positive New Music Review Show, hosted by a French professor who's going to start with the car. GNX. People always say, what the hell does that mean? Well, I'm going to explain it. I've seen a lot of people online saying, oh, Generation X. Yeah, that sort of works, except for the fact that he is like the opposite of a Generation X rapper. He was born in 1987. Gen X ended in 1980. That doesn't work at all. No, let's take him at his word. If he's sitting in front of a Buick Grand National GNX, then we should assume that that's what he means by GNX. But a car is not just a car. A car is never a car. Certainly not if it's what you're naming your album after. Certainly not in Kendrick's oeuvre with this famous minivan, right? So, right off, all over the album, this car is mentioned. I think its best example is in TV Off. All I ever wanted was a black Grand National, right? So all he ever wanted was that. So what does it mean? What does this car mean? It's an exclusive car, it's a powerful car, it's a surprising car, and it's a car for those that know cars. Now listen, you can go out there and you can watch a documentary called Black Air, the Buick Grand National documentary by Andrew Filippone Jr. Filippone? I don't know. I'll include a link to it in the description, and that's what I watched to understand this better. And it's a fascinating story. The story of the Buick Grand National is actually very cool for a car story because it's a GM car, General Motors. The same people who make Pontiacs, same people who make Chevrolet, make GM cars, But like they're known for muscle cars, like the Corvette or whatever, Firebirds, all that, right? But like that's not what Buick's known for. Buicks were not known for that. As a matter of fact, the documentary explains that before the Grand National, their slogan. Buick's slogan was substantial, distinctive, powerful, and mature. That was what they called themselves. And then they made this absolutely insano fast car called the Grand National that was literally faster than a Ferrari. It was, and boxy as hell, like a weird-looking, odd, angular mess of a car. In the documentary, they referred to it as a tennis champion wearing a tuxedo. But let's not get lost here by talking about the Buick Grand National, because that's not what this is actually about. There's lots of Buick Grand Nationals. There's only 547 GNX. You see, the Grand National was the last of a dying breed. It was made in a time where the car industry was changing. And one of the things that was changing was performance. Performance was going away in favor of efficiency, in favor of sellability, in favor of practicality. And one of the ways that manifested itself was moving away from rear-wheel drive. Now, you've probably never driven a rear-wheel drive car, okay, unless you're rich, okay? Rear-wheel drive is very different than front-wheel drive. Think about it. When you do front-wheel drive, the front wheels pull you along. You're like a little baby being dragged. You're like a little tiny baby being dragged in like a little radio flyer wagon. And you're like, oh, thank you, Mommy. Can I put on cruise control? Can I have drive assist? I want to go nappy while driving, right? That's where we're going. That's where cars are going. But rear-wheel drive, you are pushed from the back, and you better have control, especially if you get a lot of power, you better have control. It's an amazing feeling. And the reason that the GNX existed was Buick was phasing out rear-wheel drive cars. They only had the Grand National. All of GM only had the Grand National, I believe, the Grand National and the Corvette. Correct me, car guys, if they had more back in 1987. But certainly after 87, all they had was the Corvette. And they decided to go out in an absolute blaze of glory. See, it was this weird interstitial period in between the muscle cars of the 60s and 70s and the computerized cars of the nows. Like in between that time, this little car was created, and it seems like it was almost out of time, out of place. How could this car actually exist? And they went so far. They went and they worked with ASC McLaren. Yes, the same McLaren who makes the McLaren F1, the same McLaren who makes all the great race cars, Senna and all that. And they made 547 of these absolute beasts. And they only sold them to dealers who would put markups, but still, the sticker price was $29,000, which is $80,000 in today's money, which is a lot until you remember that it was faster than the Ferrari F40, which was $399,000, $1.1 million in today's money. For under 100K, you could go faster than $1 million car. So, where's this all going? What does this all have to do with Kendrick Lamar? Well, first, he also says a black Grand National. This is not a coincidence. Now listen, some people in the comments, Skye, all Grand Nationals were black. False. Okay. All Grand Nationals after 1984 were black, but certainly all GNXs were black. All right, so all he ever wanted was this car, this GNX. So what does this mean? What is all the things? The whole time I've been talking about the car, I could almost also sort of kind of was talking about Kendrick Lamar. Not for nothing, too. When you think of a big, powerful car, what do you think of that engine, right? You think of a V12, maybe a V10, at the very, very limits, a V8. No. Buick Grand National, that's a V6. Only 6 little pistons there making all that power. You know, you don't have to be big to be powerful. You can be a little guy and have the whole world at your feet. So let's summarize the Buick GNX in the context of Kendrick Lamar. The Buick Grand National GNX is shocking black excellence from 1987, the year of Kendrick's birth. And only 1987. Shocking black excellence from 1987 that could be seen as the last gasp of a great American art that certainly can be appreciated by anyone because of its rarity and its power, but is best appreciated by those with taste and discernment in the art. I just described a Grand National, and I just described Kendrick Lamar. Shocking black excellence from 1987 that can be seen as the last gasp of great American art that can be appreciated by anybody because of its rarity and power, but is best appreciated by those with taste and discernment in the art. He is the GNX. Now let's also not forget, this is not nothing. He's not just throwing these things out there. I don't care how many times he says he's just making this to be felt. It has meaning. Cars have meaning, especially in West Coast rap. Okay? Cars in East Coast rap do not. Sometimes they do. Okay, fine. Packing it back in the back of the act, Big Punisher, and obviously, you know, Lexuses and all that. Fine. And Bentleys. Okay, fine. But really, LA's car culture, New York is not. And when you study hip-hop, there's a long, nice history of General Motors car culture. If I were to ask you, give me one lyric that defines West Coast rap. You tell me in the comments. You tell me in the comments, and you might be betraying your age. But I can tell you as somebody who has been around for a long time and listened to a lot of rap music, the definitive line in rap history when it comes to gangster rap is the following. Cruising down the street in my 6'4". That's it. That's the essence. Okay, fine. If some of you put 6 a.m. police at my door, fine. You get credit too. You can also give it to Ice-T. But when we're talking about the beginnings, okay, we're talking about Boys in the Hood by Eazy-E, Cruising Down the Street in My 6'4". If you've never read Original Gangsters, it's a very nice book. It's about the birth of West Coast rap. There's a funny scene here. Ice Cube actually wrote the... ironically, I was going to do an Ice Cube video today, and then Kendrick dropped out of nowhere. Disrespectful. But... anyways, so Ice Cube wrote these lyrics, and they were trying to give them to an East Coast group, right? Like they were trying to give the song "Boys in the Hood" to homeboys only, and homeboys only were like, "What is this?" And I'm going to quote Ice Cube. They was like, "What are you talking about? What's a 6'4"? And I could tell you, growing up, I was like, "What is a 6'4"? What is a 6'4"? Now you might know what a 6'4" is. You probably do. Do you know why you know what a 6'4" is? You know what a 6'4" is because of NWA, because of Eazy-E, because of rap music. It is a 64 Chevrolet Impala, a great car to do low riding in. Matter of fact, Chevrolet Impalas happen to have a weird trait of their construction where they had a kind of X in the middle, which is what made them so good for hydraulics, for lifting and lowering. But not just, Chevelles, okay? We're talking El Caminos, okay? There's a whole series of Chevrolet cars that are all tied into West Coast rap. So I think taking a Buick, different generation. It's not a 64, it's an 87. You understand what I'm saying? It's not Generation X. It's not. It is not the 70s. It is not the 80s. It is not someone who was on the streets during the Ronald Reagan era. It was somebody who was born in the Ronald Reagan era. Not good from far, okay, but that's what it is. And really, if you go even deeper, GM's, gangster rap, the car that killed Biggie. The car that killed Biggie was a 1994 to 1996 Chevy Caprice Classic SS Impala. My dream car. Purple, by the way. There's only like 5 of those in we should be able to figure out who it was that killed him just based on the fact it's a purple car. But right there on Wilshire Fairfax, right in front of the diner where Pulp Fiction was filmed, like the diner scene, that's right in front of where Biggie was killed. I Can Get You a Tow from Big Lebowski, that same diner, and of course the car museum. So to me, this idea of a GNX places Kendrick in the long tradition of West Coast rappers with their love of cars, because I was trying to explain to my daughter how bad car culture is in Los Angeles, and I told her if I were going to go eat with 3 of my friends, because I lived in Los Angeles for a year, if we were going to go eat at a restaurant a 5-minute walk away, all 4 of us would take our cars separately. And I don't even really know why, but that's what it is. Car culture in LA is so bad. One time I was walking, and a person pulled up next to me in a car and asked me for money. He was panhandling in a car when I was walking. That's how much it's car culture. I'm not joking. That really happened. A Chevron right near I was walking through a Chevron right near Jamba Juice. Actually, I think I was on Santa Monica. Anyways, I can show you there next time we're there together. And this whole idea of like this long tradition, the car tradition, and this just the same thing, just the same love that Eazy had for his 6'4", or that Ice Cube had for his 6'4", the same love, all ties in to this different version, this different generation. Also, hey, not for nothing, what's going on with cars? Because we have Tyler, the Creator. I did a whole thing about how he's so insistent that he doesn't know how to be monogamous or to settle down, but the way he talks about his cars, the way most people talk about their women. We now have, in the span of like a month, 2 of the biggest rappers of the moment focusing on one single car each. I looked it up. The Enzo would probably win in a street race with the GNX. Okay, a Ferrari from 1987 can get beaten by a GNX, but the Enzo's a lot faster. Okay, and that just made me think. That made me go on a whole nother tangent. If there's any hip hop heads watching, help me out here. Rappers rap about cars, but not about specific cars. So all I can think of is Tyler's Enzo, Kendrick's GNX, and Chuck D's '88 Oldsmobile. So you tell me, what are the other specific one cars? Okay, so that's the car. That's the car angle. What about the Prophet? Because you see, he mentions in the song Reincarnated the book of Isaiah. He just mentions it for reasons that I'll get into when I get to that song. And it really got me thinking. Well, it actually got me researching. Because, I've been confirmed, I've done Bible study. My dad was a preacher before I was born, but he was a preacher. And my brother's a very religious man. And, I studied the Bible, right? But, I was aware of Isaiah. But I did some research on him. And what's interesting is he's perceived of in the following way. He is the prophet of judgment and hope. He served the people of Jerusalem as an intermediary from God to them. And what he would tell them is he would judge them. He would tell them, God is not happy. You have broken the covenant. You are living in idolatry. You are oppressing the poor. You are not being good to God. You are not following your word. You are not following the way. And you will be judged. That's what he said. You will be judged. Abyssinia and then Babylon will punish you. The state will punish you for your wickedness. Not God. God's instrument will be Babylon. These nations will be sent to punish the failure of the Israelites to be good to God. And to me, this is very clearly what's been happening this year. That's who Kendrick has been. Now listen, there's not God here. It's the culture, okay? It's the concept of hip-hop as an important Black American culture that carries with it Black American values and is made for and by Black Americans and is being usurped and distorted and destroyed, being made wicked by users, okay? And that's why, in his judgment, he has to let the party die. That's what letting the party die is. Babylon is Drake, okay? And I don't mean Drake the person, I mean Drake the idea. Babylon is Jack Harlow's A&R, okay? Babylon is the fact there's only 3 record companies. Babylon is all of these things that have happened to this great art that came out of the voice of the voiceless and the people who had nothing and made the most important cultural movement in the history of human civilization. I've made that claim and I will back it up and I still hold on to it, how it's been sold out. That God sent Babylon. The culture sent Drake to destroy what was wicked. He is what the culture is feeling, and he is talking to the culture. And that's why his wrath is holy. Holy. It is a holy war. I've said this before, and I apologize to all my Muslim brothers, sisters, okay? When I said that jihad means holy war, it means struggle, and it's been appropriated by a lot of people to just mean holy war. That is a definition of the word, but it's not the definition of the word. Let's just stick to holy war. This is his holy war. And so that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to show the destruction that it has happened and make sure that everything that was there is destroyed. But Isaiah is not just about judging. He's not just talking about, oh, Babylon will destroy you. He also brings hope. He explains how God's blessings will come, how a king will be sent, how there will be a new Jerusalem. And that new Jerusalem will be in accordance with God, and everybody will be receiving the bounty of God once they have this new king. I also think that's what Kendrick is doing. I think that's why he's part of what Read My Soul calls this great reset. This is what we're all noticing. This is what Culture United talked about on our stream the other day, right? Like last month. It's this thing that's happening where it's like, we're getting to a new Jerusalem of hip-hop. We might be. We could be. We look at this year where Drake flopped and Schoolboy Q and Doechii are absolutely killing it. And it's like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe this is happening again. Maybe this is a great moment. And I think Kendrick is trying to help that happen. I think we see it with the artists that he's supporting, the artists that he's promoting, and the way that his holy war is always against the wicked. It's never against the just. In terms of the culture, okay? I don't mean in terms of like God or the state, right? Or like good people, bad people. I don't mean that. Side note. Just a side note here, because I want to make sure when you're a researcher, the worst thing that you have to do when you're a real researcher is you look up to try to see if someone has already said what you said. Okay? It sucks. It's a very nervous moment, you know? So I looked up Kendrick Prophet. And maybe the best piece of writing on Kendrick Lamar on the internet is by a guy named Rodney Carmichael from NPR. I'll include a link to that in the description as well. And in this 2017 article, he describes why Damn is so good. And he describes Kendrick as a prophet. So he was the first to describe him as a prophet, but not Isaiah. I'm going to quote him, okay? This is Rodney Carmichael's writing. The Old Testament is full of prophets trying their damnedest to save the world. More often than not, the first obstacle they must overcome is self. Self-doubt, self-loathing, even their personal aversion to self-sacrifice. Sound familiar? Does that sound like Kendrick to you? It sounds like Kendrick to me. Later. There was Jeremiah. He suffered depression so badly, likely from carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders, that students of the Bible refer to him as the weeping prophet. I've recently taken to call him something else, the patron saint of Kendrick Lamar Duckworth. Beautiful writing. Seriously, read the whole thing. It's great. Carrying the burden of the world on his shoulders. think that was true. I think that was him. I think that was Kendrick in 2017. But this is not Jeremiah rap. This is not him burdened by carrying the weight of everything. He is not our savior. He is not. He hasn't been a savior all year. He's a prophet. And he's bringing judgment, and he's bringing hope. GNX. Let's get to that X. Let's get to the rapper. Ladies and gentlemen, I've had a weird time, okay? This album came out. I'll talk about what happened when it dropped. But I'm going to break the rapper into three, okay? Because I think what makes this album... Okay, first of all, the whole question is this a masterpiece? I don't know. I don't know if it's a classic. I don't... the comments are going to be filled with people like, Skye, you got to wait to write about these things. The album just came out. Hey, listen, I love you. I love you. I love you if you wrote that comment. But also, fuck off. Just, hey, I got a lot to say. One of the things that I do that's, I think, impressive and interesting is how fast my mind works and how quickly it makes connections. So I hope there's some kind of little joy in seeing me work, okay? In seeing me cook, as you kids like to say. But that being said, I don't know if it's a masterpiece. I will say this, though. We're spoiled. We're spoiled. Because I'm not sure this is a top 5 rap album this year. I'm not sure. And it's this good. It is Kendrick Lamar firing on all cylinders, doing something new and interesting and dynamic that gets the culture going, that gets people asking, that gets people reading, that gets people excited, that gets people to stop what they're doing, stop watching videos, stop watching TV, start screaming mustard into the ether because they are so excited that an artist at the top of his game is still producing. And that might not be the best album of the year. That might not even be in the top 5 best rap albums of the year. That's the year that we're living in. And that's part of the year that we're living in thanks to Kendrick himself for being the GNX who kept muscle cars, who kept American engineering, who kept the ridiculousness and the beauty of American culture alive. Anyways, I see there as being 3 modes on this album. I forget what I was talking about. That was not in my notes. I entered a fugue state. A fagooey state, as some people would say. So I think there's 3 modes to Kendrick as a rapper on this album, which is what makes it so interesting, because you go, is it a masterpiece? Well, it's not a unified. Whatever it is, it's not like one unified thing. It doesn't have the polish of Mr. Morale, which also awesome. It doesn't have the polish of Damn, which also awesome. It does have the lack of polish of Untitled Unmastered, so also awesome. So first of all, we got your bitter battle bangers. Most of the album is bitter banger battles. And yes, and try saying bitter batter bangles. Walk like an Egyptian. We're going to get to Egyptians later. And it's just about how great he is. It's just about how great he is. He's still in the mode, like sharks, right? When they smell blood, they go into a frenzy. Drake sent him into a frenzy. And the thing with frenzies is after they've eaten all the fish, they're still hungry. So you could put a fax machine in the water and the shark will try to eat that thing, okay? He's in a frenzy. And this is part of his holy wrath, okay? This is the way that he fights on behalf of the culture. The way that he fights is through his holy wrath and his bitter battle bangers, okay? Yeah. Did I try to do a Red Sox logo? I did. Is that how well I can draw a Red Sox logo? It is. Is that supposed to be a boxing glove? It is. I'm also imitating the best Nintendo game, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. So that's the majority of the album. And then we also have sweet love songs. Do you know how hard it is to make graphics for your videos when you have a 2-year-old constantly trying to steal your Sharpies? It's this hard, okay? Soul and R&B. And it's not so much that there's only really one song that properly fits into here, and another song that's close to it. But it's more this concept that he says in the opening track, riding in my GNX with Anita Baker in the tape deck, it's going to be sweet love. Hence, sweet love songs. And I find this interesting because if you watch my videos, you know I'm obsessed with this idea that there's a kind of black music that white people don't hear. And it's not that they hate it or dislike it. It's even though the majority of art that the majority of music that white people enjoy is either created by black people or made by black people. There is still a kind of R&B and soul music that's like, it just goes beyond, I don't know. It's a lack of melanin in the eardrums. I don't know what it is. And so I made this to try to describe that. Okay, this is called the Van Drotus scale, okay? And it's of white appreciation of soul and R&B. And you see over here, you have Otis Redding, you have Marvin Gaye, you have Smokey Robinson. You could probably throw in James Brown in there as well. Al Green when he was secular. Okay? Like, over here on this side, this is stuff which generally white audiences, and I don't have an answer for you, by the way. If you have an answer, you can give me an answer. And this is just personal. Maybe you are a white person who loves Teddy Pendergrass. I totally believe that it must exist. Okay? But it's an interesting thing, because in this sort of like imaginary line that I have here between these two pieces of paper, you know, you have your Lou Rawls, you have your Anita Baker, Teddy Pendergrass, Luther Vandross, and I can tell you that, like, when I was getting into soul music and R&B, like, I tried. Like, I listened to all of these musicians, and there was just something on this side which did not connect with me. I believe through his references, through his samples, and through some of his songwriting, he is trying to make an album which is pleasing to this side. Okay? It's pleasing over here. You know, like I don't know. And I think, and again, I'm going to quote my Culture United colleague, I'm not in the position to properly contextualize. I'm not in the position to properly contextualize this, but what I imagine is that he's trying to make music like the music of that his parents would listen to, okay? I think I saw Rob Markman talk about the fact that he referenced Anita Baker and that his mom loved Anita Baker, okay? So I think that is an important aspect of where he is not afraid to lose me, Mr. White Audience Guy. That's my name. Okay, so now that we've established the Van Drotus scale. By the way, if you're a Luther Vandross fan, tell me what's the best. I'm going to buy a Luther Vandross CD. So you tell me what's the best one to get. That's the second. And then listen, we still got Morale music. He's still Mr. Morale. This album's very Mr. Morale. Okay, that's supposed to be a crown of thorns. Again, 2-year-old trying to grab the Sharpie. He's still very much about self-help. Figuring out who he is, his place in the universe. He's very much talking about the artistic process. He's dealing with spirituality, like past life therapy. In the teaser, he references spirituality. What's interesting, though, is that he's in morale mode, but not in the essential message of Mr. Morale, which was I choose me. He is not in I choose me mode. He is in prophet mode. Okay, so those are the three different things. I can't tell if I hate these graphics or if I love them, so I will either continue to bring them up throughout the video or I will forget them. If you don't know, I don't edit my videos, so it's all a mystery to me. I don't know how long this, 28 minutes long? Hey, I've almost talked about a song. Some more thoughts? Okay, so these are assorted thoughts. These are just loosies that I'm just kind of throwing out there. These are untitled, unmastered thoughts, okay? He's not afraid of losing you. He is not afraid of losing you. This is a very surprising and shocking album, and he is not afraid of losing you. And one way is his guest appearances. What were we expecting I was expecting a Christian album. I was expecting Lecrae and D1 and and all the rappers who I've never heard of that are great Christian rappers. I was expecting that. I was expecting Let the Party Die, but like full version. It wasn't that. Or he could have. Who would have said no to Kendrick Lamar? Okay, Nicki Minaj would have said no. That's it. Okay, Drake would have said yes. If he asked Drake, Drake would have said yes. I think Nicki Minaj is the only rapper on earth who would have said no to appearing with Kendrick Lamar. And that's meaningful because he had all the power, all the access, all eyes on him. He is the most important artist in the world right now. And who does he pick? Hita 3? Dodie? Who are these people? Hey, did you get mad at me for saying who are these people? Do you know why I said who are these people? Because I don't front, okay? I don't front. I could front and pretend like I knew all the guest appearances, that I've heard of all these people, but I haven't. Do you know why I haven't heard them? Because I'm not a real one. I'm not a real West Coast rap fan. I don't sit there on the blogs. I don't sit there on Crenshaw and sit there and ask who's got tapes in the back of their in the back of their Caprice. You know, I don't do that. I don't know what that is. I don't know this world. I don't know who these people are. I didn't know who they are. Now I do. Oh, Kendrick's a gatekeeper? Is that who he is? Or did he just take us to the gate and say, hey, do you want to see what's going on in the West Coast right now? Do you want to see, like, some of the rappers that we have? Hey, would you like me to put you up on game one more time? But instead of teaching you about Reconstruction era American politics and labor relations, I could put you up on game with all these West Coast rappers who are immediately going to be taken more seriously, who for the rest of their life can say, hey, I was on a Kendrick album. I chose me, I'm sorry. Did you, Kendrick? Did you choose you, or did you choose the West Coast? Because it feels to me like you see New Jerusalem, and it's located in California. That's how it appears. Speaking of California, a little sneaky little touch here. Muy interesante. Este álbum es muy mexicano y latino. It's a very, very, very Mexican, Latin, Hispanic, Chicano album. There's a lot of references. And it makes sense. Because the truth about California, the truth about Compton, Compton is 71% black, but 30% Latin, Hispanic. I'm sorry, it was. It was in the 80s. Now it's 70% Hispanic, 30% black. Okay? That's, you might go there and think that you're going to see boys in the hood, but you're probably going to see chicos in los barrios, okay? And it's an interesting thing because I think it's part of this whole idea that, like, New Jerusalem is going to be in California, and he's embracing the culture, and he's making sure that the us is not just foundational black Americans or American descendants of slavery or black people in general or diaspora, whatever. It's not that. It's this culture. And I think that's why he's paying so much attention and emphasizing the importance, because that is the reality of where he's from. Not for nothing. The culturally appropriated get a pass for culturally appropriating because, like, who has been more appropriated than African Americans? But they totally ganked the lowrider thing. That was Chicano culture. That was Mexican American, aka Chicano culture in Los Angeles. And they were just like, that's cool. Let's do that too. It's just funny. Anyways, more on that later. I think it's interesting that he's not trying to master. Like, it seems to me like everything's intentional. Right? So everything has to be intentional. I get accused of being a Kendrick glazer. And I'm a Kendrick glazer in the way that I am a Beatles glazer, which is like, yeah, I guess, you know, if the White Album came out now, you could come up with a lot of reasons why it sucks. But then I'll just punch you in the face with Dear Prudence and be like, are you really trying to crap on an album that contains Dear Prudence? Is that your goal? Is Helter Skelter not enough for you? You have to sit there and talk about how Julia is weak sauce? You small-minded prick? So yeah, I glaze the greatest rapper alive. I glaze him because he is great. You need to stop being afraid of glazing people when they're great. All right? I glaze Picasso. Okay? That's who I glaze. Some people, Mr. Wayne, deserve to be glazed. And that's what it is. But that doesn't mean that I'm ignorant of the fact that he's kind of weirdly lazy on this project. I was texting Justin Hunt yesterday, and he's like, what do you mean lazy? I mean, some of the sample flips here are not even flips. We're talking like 1990s era Puff Daddy style, just like, I don't know, press play. I did it. That's my sample, you know? And there's a time where he forgets to rhyme. He forgets. Kendrick Lamar, the master of the rich rhyme, Mr. Poet, Mr. Everything, he straight up forgets to rhyme at a certain point in this album. And he's not doing like 1,000 different voices. And he says, fuck a double entendre, I want you to feel. So maybe it's all on purpose. Maybe he's intentionally being lazy to mix it up so that we don't always expect the same thing from him. Because in theory, that's what he did with Damn. In theory, Damn was like, oh, I'm just going to do something kind of poppy after To Pimp a Butterfly. And in theory, you could say the same thing here. Oh, he's just going to put out GNX with kind of more bops and your battle bangers, you know, like, yeah. But like, Damn was not simple. Damn won a Pulitzer for a reason. Damn won everything because it was such a complex. I mean, you try to do a rhyme breakdown of DNA, you know, where you just like highlight all the different rich rhymes and mosaic rhymes and all that. It's a mess. It's a mess of color. On this album, he tries to rhyme Dorsey. We'll get to it. We'll get to his complete failure of rhyming. But maybe it's on purpose to show. Hey, you want me to continue to be critical of Kendrick or say things that might be funny? Hey, Drake. I know. We've got problems. But listen. Come here. He just made an entire album co-produced by Jack Antonoff. Okay? Let me tell you, people who get entire albums co-produced by Jack Antonoff. Lana Del Rey, Clairo, Taylor Swift, Sabrina Carpenter. Do you see any similarities there? Don't start it up again. But if you're going to start it up again, you might want to point out that he literally went to the pop starlet producer. Okay? I'm not saying Jack Antonoff can't do anything else, and I think he's great. Probably my favorite work of his is the St. Vincent stuff. But like, Drake, he called you Sexy Red. He said that when he sees you in Sexy Red, he sees two B words. I'm just saying. Hey. But of course, Soundwave's on here as well. But also, it's kind of Taylor-like. Like, Kendrick is doing this thing where, and he's been doing it forever, but like, he's narrating his life, but he's roughly, wait, you see this? He's the same age. He's the same age as Taylor. And he's just sort of talking about his life, you know? He's talking about the Super Bowl and about the battle and about the mural. He's like talking about his life. It's a very Taylor album. So there you go, people who think I glaze. I glaze greatness. You know, I woke up early this morning to do this video. I woke up at 6 a.m. yesterday just to listen to the album because I can't find time because I have three daughters in the house and 2 dogs and a full-time job and all that stuff. So I had to wake up at 6 a.m. on a Saturday. I wake up at 6 a.m. here. Old commercial for Dunkin' Donuts. Time to make the donuts. That's what I said. Time to glaze the Kendrick. That's what I said this morning. If you like what you see, if you like to smash the like bucket, I like that. AVAA stands for awesome video as always. I will try to like the comments, every single one that I see, except YouTube has done a thing now where they make it harder for video creators to see the comments. I don't know why they did that, but they did that. All right. So anyways, we're 38 minutes in. Shall we talk about the album? I'm going to open up with the track Whacked Out Murals. The definition of a bitter battle banger. But it actually sets up the entire album super duper 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 well. Begins with Dera Barrera, the Mexican singer. It is not unimportant that it starts off with Spanish. Like I said, to love California, to love the West Coast, is to love Mexican Americans, is to love Hispanics, is to love Latinos. That's part of the culture. He apparently discovered her when she sang the song in honor of Fernando Valenzuela, who's like one of the greatest pitchers in the history of the Dodgers, who I think his rookie year was 81 maybe. And sorry, I just saw a red-tailed hawk fly out my porch. It's wild. And you know, like how much more LA can you get? And like then the Dodgers and Fernando Valenzuela and a Mexican singer, right? And even the mural in question was on a Honduran restaurant called El Sabor. Okay, this mixture is very important and part of the album. These great vocal stabs under, like these cool like little like synth stabs underneath, actually reminds me a lot of the beginning of All Right. You know, All My Life I Had to Fight. And then when the beat actually kind of starts. It's very Houdini. It reminds me a lot of Friends. If you've never heard the song Friends, it's almost like a messed up version of Friends, which kind of makes sense because this is a song about not having friends, so maybe that's that. If you don't know Houdini, it's okay. It's okay to not know Houdini, but you should check them out. There's a lot of good stuff. All these great whines. It's the longest song on the album, I believe. And it's just so angry. And this is it's what we wanted, right? Like when we're thinking about Kendrick this year, when we're thinking about what we want, we're thinking we just want battles and battles and battles and battles and bangers and bangers and bangers. We want him calling out people. We want him attacking. We want that holy wrath. It used to be F that but now it's plural F everybody. But don't forget, it's also where he directly calls out sweet love. When he's in his GNX, he's not listening to battle raps. He's not listening to hardcore gangster rap. He's listening to sweet love. I'm thinking about one of my favorite songs, Act a Fool by King T. Pulled out the Zap tape, couldn't find it, forget it. And he listens to R&B in that too. I guess there's sort of a history because he ends up listening to Dana Dane. Well, exactly. Anyways, sorry. I'm just trying to think about the incongruity of somebody sitting there listening to I'm going to kill everybody. Sweet love. Okay? Again, very much on the side, on the Vandross side of the Vandross scale. And he's shouting out Lil Wayne and Snoop and all that and the Super Bowl. And it's funny. He seems hurt. He seems hurt that he didn't get congratulated, that only Nas congratulated him. Big trippin'. I just want what I deserve. Oh, deserve. Hey, he's setting up the whole album, by the way. He's just goofing around everybody. He isn't a serious album. He's not like doing like super serious stuff. He's not like working super hard. He doesn't have like a very specific, concrete idea of what's going to go on. He's just kind of goofing it. Don't you believe it? He's bringing up everything. This song has traces of every other song on the album. Old ass flows. This is not for lyricists. It's not the sentiments. F a double entendre. I probably built the pyramids. Who built the pyramids? Who built the pyramids? Who built the pyramids? I'll let you look it up. Look it up, everybody. Who built the pyramids? He says squabble up because he's setting up the next song as well. He's setting up the whole album with this first track, and he's full on judgment. He's just judging everybody. He's in that prophet mode, right? But also there's hope. Like he actually tells you how to behave. He gives you rules of engagement. So the same time that he's judging everybody, he is instructing people who might not be wicked yet how to be better people. Keep your feelings out the way. Don't want to put anything on your name. Not everyone's going to like you. And it's this great combination of like guidance and holy wrath. Y'all stay politically correct. I'm going to do what I did. Great line. It's called tautology. I'm going to do what I did. Like it's a meaningless sentence because it's already happened. And he just gets wilding. He's just wilding out. F your hip hop. I watched the party die. Right? Because he just described it. What he's talking about, I think, is he saying F your hip hop? I think he's still talking. I think almost like what he's in favor of is hip hop itself as a term and an idea being replaced with the culture. There's a lot of stuff to go on here, and he's just drawing sides. You know, he's going full Anakin. Either you're with me or you're against me. F anybody empathetic to the other side, I vow. Exterminate him right now. Make Cat Williams and them proud. So he's like going on to Cat Williams, who obviously just did that interview, which I talked about on my second channel, I think. And it's just, wow, just going off and off and off and off. And he gets us right up there, and you think, okay, good, that's done. And then bam, squabble up, bam, bam, squabble up. Ha 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 ha, and these triangles, and now it's super hard, and then it's the beginning of the broccoli beat. It's the broccoli beat from the Not Like Us video. It's super hard, it's super good, it's super effing West Coast. If you've never listened to West Coast rap before NWA, man, you might not like it. You really might not like it. It is really electro. If you like Africa Bambaataa, you'll like it. But if you think like if that stuff, if you hear that and you go, I want All right, if you want that Run DMC punch you in the mouth till you taste the metallic blood on your tongue, stay away from pre-NWA West Coast rap. Stay away from pre-NWA Dr. Dre, okay? The world class wrecking crew. I like that stuff. I don't love it. I like it. You know, I somewhere in my CD collection, I have the early days of Dr. Dre, the world class wrecking crew stuff, and Egyptian Lover. That was like the LA song. Egyptian Lover, baby. Hey, maybe he built the pyramids. Uncle Jam. Like just all these things that were going on, and a lot of this album feels like that. Feels like a love letter to that time in West Coast rap music. But also, it's a sample. It's a sample of When I Hear Music by Debbie Deb. It's very slowed down. If you listen to the original, you're like, man, low energy on this sample. So the style of music is called freestyle music. Would you like to know the other thing? The other term that this music is known as, besides freestyle music? Latin freestyle. I don't know about that. I'm telling you, this album is, to a certain extent, a love letter to the Latin populace of America. I use the term Latin, Hispanic, Chicano, Mexican. I use these kind of all because there's a lot. Do some research. I don't want to do it right now. Explain it right now. But Hispanophone. Okay, people who speak Spanish will just maybe I'll settle on that. And just these super hard first verses. And people are like, this is just Not Like Us Part 2. Hey, did you ever expect him to do it, Not Like Us Part 2? It's actually surprising that he did it. It's shocking to me that this album is filled with Not Like Us style tracks. Because Kendrick is an artist who does not repeat himself. He did not do a second To Pimp a Butterfly. He did Damn. And then he did Mr. Morale. And then everything he has to... to me, this is that I want you to feel it. Like he knew that people were feeling Not Like Us. And you turn on the radio, you find a second song that's Not Like Us. Good luck, buddy. You're not going to find it. You're not going to find a second song that sounds like Not Like Us. So he had to do it himself. You don't like it? You don't sit... You're not in the kitchen with your 2-year-old listening to this song through the Bluetooth speaker and dancing like hell? I am. Hey, Skye, how's your crip walk going? It's going great. No one's ever going to see it but my 2-year-old, but I feel like I'm finally getting it. I will never, ever do that in public. But it's the music that makes you want to do that little dance. And I'm dancing it. I don't care. I don't know what bunk skunk means. But I know a bitter battle banger when I hear it. And it is just awesome. It is just an awesome, awesome verse. And always he's putting little seeds in. They're going to grow later. He mentions Black and Mild. That's going to come back. It's going to come back like 10 songs from now, everybody. And then, okay. Would you like to hear the most surprising thing I'm going to say? I skipped my favorite song on the album the first time I listened to the album. I heard Luther, I heard the Sweet Love song, and I was like, nope, this isn't for me. Nope. I am not in a position to properly contextualize or enjoy this music, because I've never been over here, okay? I'm over here, all right? But the more I listen to this album, this is the hit. Oh, it's so beautiful. SZA's voice is so good. And Kendrick shows you can make an R&B song without like auto-tune, without like singing. How the hell is he doing this? How is he making such a good R&B song without being an R&B rap guy? How is he doing it? How is it that if you ask me right now, Skye, what would you like to see most from Kendrick's next album? I would say an R&B album with SZA. What the hell? Hey, am I shifting? Huh? Am I headed more over here? Is it possible that my taste and my palate is expanding through exposure? That's fascinating. I don't like the title. The title is called Luther. It should not be called Luther. It should be called Luther and Cheryl, because this is a duet with Cheryl Lynn and Luther Vandross. But do you know what it actually is? Do you know who actually made the song? Where's Marvin? It's a Marvin Gaye song. Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell recorded the song for the first time. Is this all intentional? What do you think? What do you think? Marvin Gaye, Tammy Terrell, 60s. Vandross, Cheryl Lynn, 80s. Kendrick, SZA, 20s. It all makes sense. He's putting himself in this line of Luther, Marvin, Luther, Kendrick. Heart Part 5 was all about Marvin Gaye anyways. Check out my video on that if you haven't seen it. And it's just a beautiful, I love the 80s cowbell sound and the bumping bass sound. And this is the hit. This is the hit off the album. It's a vibe, do your dance, let them watch, she a fan, he a flop, they just want a kumbaya now. Just SZA's there. This maybe is Jack Antonoff. I don't know. I don't know why this is so good. But the interaction between SZA and Kendrick is so good. And it's worth mentioning that the sample starts off with If This World Were Mine, sung by Luther Vandross, but it ends with Cheryl saying If This World Were Mine. Clean sample, just beautiful. And this is a song for GNX in the future. For the future of people who have GNX cars or cars like them, this is what they're going to be listening to instead of Anita Baker. Then we get our first real concrete example of morale music. Man at the Garden, slow, strange, mechanical beat with rain, audience, builds over time. I felt that it was I Can Feel It in the Air Tonight, but then my colleagues, my Culture United colleagues, Company Man and Curtis King, I saw them discuss this, and obviously this is a reference to One Mic by Nas, and I suggest you watch Justin Hunt's video on the topic. It's great, and I'm not the biggest Nas expert, so I'm going to stay away from it, but I'm going to push back on it. I'm going to push back on it by saying this. Need and deserve are two different words. They're two very, 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 very different words. Sorry, I'm recording inside the house now. I hear people walking around upstairs. I might have to just do a part 2 of this video. I don't know. I got Toby over there. He's about to just start making noise. So we're going to see what's happening. But need and deserve are very different verbs. So all I need is one mic. That's what Nas is saying. And this is Kendrick's song about deserving. And this is all Mr. Morale stuff, all about his emotional stability and how he deserves it all. He deserves all the money. He deserves all the power. It's what he works for. He gets up at 6 a.m. like I do. I deserve all these clicks that I got for this video. He works, and then his mom deserves it, and his son deserves it. And then it builds up with this crazy crashing out verse, which kind of came out of nowhere, and this blood be spilling, and it's just paint to me. Tell me why you think you deserve the greatest of all time. Mother effer. I love this because the mother effer does not fit the rhyme. He's just throwing that out there just to punctuate it, just to say the strength. And one of my favorite things is what Curtis King said, was he said that some rappers are rich but sloppy. I thought that was a good description, that they're not dedicated to their craft, and that Kendrick is really putting forth his claim for why he deserves it. He doesn't need it, he deserves it. Okay, now Toby's going to come over here and he's going to mess up all my notes. Can you just sit? I'm not going to feed you, man. I'm not even halfway through the album, Toby. Then we get to the next song, Hey Now, another bitter battle banger, hard and cool, ha 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 as well. Great dance vibe, more West Coast synths, mustardy style stuff. Kind of morale as well at times. This is the song where he gives up rhyming. Here's a question. Do these words rhyme? Mad for Dorsey. I don't care. You could be from rural Mississippi and you could not slant that rhyme. Mad for Dorsey. There's no way to make that rhyme. The next line. It's high beams if I make a public appearance, because go back to hiding because I'm not too friendly with, and I can't say this next word, it starts with N. Does appearance and N-word rhyme? These words just don't rhyme. I don't know how intentional this is. And the chorus, it's just kind of like, hey now, say now, I'm all about my yen. So he's just sort of having fun, being sloppy, being quick, and then also talking about Buddhas and yen. And it gets real West Coast here. These synthesizers just get more and more apparent. Egyptian lover-y style, working crew style synthesizers everywhere. Black Noah, I just strangled a goat. His holy wrath is so great that if he were Noah, he would kill, he would strangle a goat. What does that mean? If Noah strangled a goat, that would mean there are no more goats on planet Earth, because he was so mad at this false goat that he ended the line of goats forever. And we get Dodie on here, just super hard, laconic lyrics. I think I don't know. So I've watched some commentary on the album, but not a lot because I don't want to get it mixed up in my head. But I did see Justin mention that like the way the guest appearances are super interlocked, and I really appreciate that on this album. That he's not just like, okay, you're an LA rapper, you just come on in and you give me a verse and I'll put your best. Give me 10 verses and I'll put the best one on one of my songs. Best of luck. Let me validate your parking, and here's $10 to El Pollo Loco gift card. Okay, thank you for coming. Cool. What was your name? Dodai? Cool. Anyways, awesome. Yeah, LA. Yeah, West Coast. Great. Good. Yeah, just ask Cheryl. Cheryl will validate your parking. It wasn't like that. It was, I got way into that skit. Like they're working together. They're doing back and forth. And then said, tell him Dodie did that, which again, all the way throughout the album, this thrown together album where he doesn't even rhyme all the time. He's actually placing little tiny breadcrumbs that are going to connect to other things. And then we get to the song Reincarnated, more morale music. Now, Ayera Barrera's back again, and I want to take some more time with this little Mexican element of this album. This song is obviously a sample off of Made, I'm not going to say that word, by Tupac, right? Who produced that song? Johnny J. That's cool. Johnny J is a producer. He's a producer. There's a fair chance you've never heard of him. Because he's kind of an obscure producer who was Tupac's primary producer. 100 songs he produced of Tupac. 100. Including most of his hits. Okay, not most of his, many of his hits. Including this song. Johnny J, born in Chihuahua, okay? That's how Mexican he is. 11 of the 27 tracks on All Eyes on Me. And this song. And Hit 'Em Up. I don't know. Is he thinking about Hit 'Em Up? Is he picking a song, sample a song that's produced by Johnny J? I don't know. There's an unreleased song produced by Johnny J. How does Tupac still have unreleased songs? That's the question. If you were a kid of the 90s, Tupac released 5 albums every week for the 3 years after he was born. It's a fact. Look it up, okay? Somehow there's an unreleased song. What's it called? Oh, Reincarnation. My only fear of death is reincarnation. I use my last breath to reach the whole nation. So Tupac himself rapped about reincarnation on this song that's here, and his fear was reincarnation. And I think we're supposed to think the whole time, I think this is an intentional thing to where we're supposed to feel that Kendrick is the reincarnation of Tupac. And then if we understand Tupac's meaning in his previous song, that's the thing that Tupac feared. Because as we see in this whole song, reincarnation is sort of a punishment from God. Now, a lot of people are spending a lot of time on the roman à clé. That means a novel with a key, like figuring out who is it? Who are they talking about? Who is the guitarist in the first verse? It's not John Lee Hooker. Whoever it is on Genius, calm down. It's not John Lee Hooker. Just calm down, Genius. Wonderful website, super good website, but calm down with that. You are forcing a square into a round hole, and you gotta knock it off, okay? And this is where I'm going to go with another one of my Culture United colleagues, Rob Markman's take, which is that it's no one. It's no one and it's everyone. These are archetypes. These are kinds of people. So I was talking, Justin asked me yesterday, who did I think the first verse was about? I think it's about Jay-Z. Not that Jay-Z was in Michigan in 1947, but it's a story of an artist who gets success and then is in control, who's the head of R&B. Did you notice that Kendrick never actually mentioned the race of the first person? He mentioned the race of the second person, but not the first person. You don't have to be reincarnated in the same race. Now, I think thematically it's probably a black guy for reasons I'll get to in a second. But still, who gets to be the head of R&B who was anyways, or I don't know, or Barry Gordy, right? It could be anybody, any sort of person who gets a lot of fame and success through their excellence and then ends up becoming a shell of themselves, sort of giving into temptation. Ike Turner. To me, it's like Ike Turner, it's Al Green, it's Roy Acuff. For you, someone out there just spit the coffee out of their mouth when I said Roy Acuff, great country producer who exploited Hank Williams and helped. Anyways, in the second verse, I don't know, Billie Holiday, maybe. Oh, is it a song about a black musician who lost their battle with addiction to substances? That one? Okay? It's the last verse that's the most important. It's the self-portrait. It's the implied Tupac of it all, and it's his discussion with his father. Did y'all forget daddy issues? Are we not putting this in the context of daddy issues? It's okay. We don't have to. Early morning wake up, but we should. We should, because the father just glides in between being his father and the father, as in God. Just kicked out of the house, kicked out of heaven. He's trying to justify himself, saying he's bringing peace between the gangs, but he loves war. He's having an argument with God. He is literally arguing with God on wax for us. Let's rejoice where we at. I rewrote the devil's story just to take our power back. Carnated. Not reincarnated. The final word is carnated, as in made flesh. Not made flesh again, made flesh. This is a fascinating idea because the whole idea, and this is where Isaiah 14 is mentioned, is that the devil was sent to hell, he was an angel, and he was sent down. And Kendrick is trying to recreate this idea of black people being exiled and punished from heaven and coming down on earth and having to make their way through the earth as cursed people forsaken by God, but not evil, fighting against the fact that they were forsaken. That's the parody. Hey, yo, I want to be very careful here, okay? I am not saying black people are Satan. I'm saying Kendrick is making a fascinating parallel between the fall of Lucifer and the idea of people being born black in America. And I'm not the only one to do it. I'm going to call on Rodney Carmichael's amazing essay on Damn one more time, where he talks about the complexity of religion for black Americans. Quote, which begs the question, what does it mean when your liberation tool, the key to your spiritual redemption, is the same tool your oppressors wielded to marginalize you for hundreds of years? Listen to the album Thief Next to Jesus by Ka, one of the many rap albums that's probably better than this one that came out this year. I'm going to continue quoting. Are we damned by our existence in America? He's also a black guy, by the way. I mean, he and Kendrick, not he and me. Are we damned by our existence in America? Or are we damned by our reliance on a theology that paints us as a cursed people? Is it the inherent wickedness of America's racialized politics, or our weakness as a people that we must overcome? Or is our faith predicated on a false binary that only feels like free while leaving us judged by our nation and cursed by our God? That's the stuff that's flying around in here. That's the stuff that's going on. I will quote this Kendrick Lamar song when I say, I sent you down to earth because you was broken. Rehabilitation, not psychosis. The reincarnation. We're going to spend a lot of time with this song. I just scraped the surface of this idea. Okay, and I'm not comfortable talking about it because it sounds too much like I'm saying black people are Lucifer. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that's the parallel that's being drawn in the music. And it's deep as hell. Also, not for nothing. But, so in Isaiah 14, he talks about the morning star. And that's what Lucifer actually means, like loose, like light, you know? And so everyone sort of assumes that means Satan, but actual biblical scholars don't think that's what it means. I'll include a link to it from Didactic Ministries. I have a great video on the subject on YouTube. And it's actually, Isaiah is not actually talking about Satan, most likely. most likely he's talking about the leaders of Babylon. What's that? So the oppressors? So the actual evil forces that are discussed is not the angel that was thrown down to heaven, but was the leader of the iniquitous state that was used to punish the wicked Israelites. I could go on for hours on this, everybody. I already hear my family stirring upstairs. I'm getting nervous. TV off. I'm telling you, my West Coast dance steps are getting better. I've never followed a tutorial, so I just improvise. Very meaningful opening. All I ever wanted was a black Grand National. F being rational, I'd give them what they asked for. The reluctant prophet Isaiah just talks and more about the state of hip-hop. A few solid left, but it's not enough. Few that'll really step, but it's not enough. It's not enough. He just has to keep giving more. He references Alpha and Omega, another rap album that's probably better than this one. Revelator by Elucid. Check it out. Talks a lot about Alpha, Omega, and the Armageddon. He talks about like cutting off his grandma. And then there's the great interlude. I want to talk to you about true wealth. Okay? True wealth costs $5. Okay? So mustard. I'm just going to give you a quick mustard. I am a French professor, so I'm going to give you a quick lesson on mustard. Yellow mustard is great. French's mustard is great. I'm not saying it's not great. It is. It's great. Spicy brown mustard, it's good. Good. Honey mustard, I don't know, man. Do you need sugar in everything? But we're talking about mustard, you know. This is what most people think of as fancy mustard because of a company called Grey Poupon. Stone ground mustard, it's fine. But I don't want to spend a lot of time on that. I want to spend a lot of time on Dijon mustard. Okay? Now, Dijon is an area of Burgundy in France that comes up with this kind of spicy, very tasty thing. And it's all meaningful because the mustard seed's in the Bible, everybody. God told us to spread our faith like mustard seeds, okay? It's supposed to spread and fly everywhere, okay? So that's what that is, okay? So this is a very good mustard. You can get this. It's Canadian, actually. I mean, it's French mustard, but Maille is owned by Unilever, and they make all of their mustard for the American market in Canada. It's fine. It's not great. It's fine. Okay, you can actually go to Trader Joe's, and their French mustard is $5, and it's very good. But I want to put you up on game right here, okay? Edmond Fallot. You can find this on the internet. This is the best mustard you're going to find, okay? This is real Dijon mustard from Dijon, from Burgundy. And I want to give you a piece of advice here, okay? This is Dijon mustard. This is great. This is kind of like what you would get anywhere else. But there's a special kind, okay, called Bourgogne, Burgundy mustard, which is weird because Dijon is in the region of Burgundy. But what makes the difference is that the primary ingredient in here, before vinegar, is wine. Burgundy wine. This is mustard so good, you want to eat it with a spoon. When you taste real Burgundy Dijon mustard, it makes you want to scream. Would you want to scream, everybody? Is anyone around you? Are we all going to scream mustard right now? I'm not, because I hope my 2-year-old's still asleep. Mustard! The funny thing was, I was listening to this song, and I also have a 3-month-old, and I was going to be taking care of her. We have a little baby seat, and so I told my wife to put her in there, but I couldn't help it. So she's like, what should I do? I was like, oh, put her in the seat, ho. So I called my wife a ho. She understood the joke. Well, she understood that I was joking. She wasn't mad. So put her in the seat, ho. And what's great is that, you know, hey, this whole song is so good because it's so modular. It's so fascinating. It starts off with ascending horns, and then after the break, ascending strings, and then after the break, it's descending horns, and it's just so hard and so strong, and he quotes the second best Biggie song of all time, Kick in the Door. The best song, of course, is Long Kiss Goodnight. Prophetic. I'm prophetic. He talks about being a prophet, still not enough. Turn the TV off. Gil Scott-Heron, The Revolution Will Not Be Televised, his most famous work, all about the importance of, if you're going to start a revolution, you cannot do it through the mass media. You just cannot do it through the media. You have to turn off the TV. You have to do it person to person to person to person to person to person to people. You're not going to do it on Facebook. You're not going to do it on Instagram. You're not going to do it on, what's that site? There's a site that people used to like send messages and stuff and post messages, whatever that used to be called. Like that whole thing, you know, like you're anesthetized. Turn the TV off. Turn the TV off. Start dancing. Start revolutionizing. Start organizing. Turn the TV off. Stop being anesthetized. Turn the TV off. Turn the TV off. Mustard! Damn, I love mustard. And then there's an extra hook at the end. Crazy, spooky. Crazy, scary, spooky, hilarious. I think he did this because he knows, he's been paying attention to Drake. You want to have a hit album? You have to do something that's memeable. You have to do something that's TikTokable. So mustard is the thing. And the other thing is crazy, scary, spooky, hilarious. Hey, TikTok, how long are you going to take to do the crazy, scary, spooky, hilarious thing where you show off the emotions of crazy, scary, spooky, and hilarious? How soon is it going to be that we're going to have thousands and thousands and thousands of videos of people going, shit, get crazy, scary, spooky, hilarious? Then we get to Dodger Blue. I'm calling that a sweet love song because it's a love song to Los Angeles. And it's made in kind of that like Montel Jordan style, like 90s R&B kind of on this side to stuff that like I liked, but you know, it's just about his love to the city and all these people I don't know, Siete and Wally the Sensei. I guess I know Roddy Ricch a little bit, and all of these guest appearances. You know, it's like, remember Blackbird, the Beyonce cover of the Beatles song, which was on the White Album, which all y'all hated. Told me I was glazing. When I was doing this channel back in 1968, I told you the White Album was a masterpiece, and y'all just came at me with Revolution Number 9. You know, said you're just glazing the Beatles. You really need to listen to the Byrds. They're actually way better. And I told you, listen, the Byrds are great, but what am I supposed to do? They're the fucking Beatles, jackass. Blackbird is on this album, and Rocky Raccoon. Anyways, remember when Beyonce did that? Remember what she did? She got a bunch of young black country stars to sing along. That's what Kendrick is doing here too. He's bringing people along. You can hear my 2-year-old running over there. It's okay. My family supports me. Can you please say thank you to my family in the comments for putting up with this? And if you're watching this in live premiere, don't put it in the comment section. Go on there and say thank you, Professor Skye's family, for putting up with this on a Sunday morning. Real LA stuff. Don't say you hate LA when you don't travel past the 10. Did you know that in Southern California they refer to highways with the definite article of the, and in the rest of California they don't? So if you take Highway 5 in the Bay Area all the way down to Los Angeles, you go from Route 5 to the 5. There's like an imaginary line, the 10. If you say take Highway 10, people look at you like you have to say the 10. Then we get to the song Peekaboo, crazy out of tune guitar line, which is a sample of Little Beaver. Give Me a Helping Hand. It's a cool, weird sample, kind of out of nowhere, but I cracked the code, everybody. This whole album, the last song is called Dodger Blue, right? It's all about LA pride. Little Beaver was also, I'm goofing right now. I'm not trying to be a Google snooper, but it's actually really interesting because Little Beaver was the nickname of Marcel Dion, who was an excellent hockey player for the Los Angeles Kings, one of their few great players in the 70s and 80s. So I think that's what this is. It's actually pretty interesting. Cuts really hard into a West Coast synth beat. What they talking about? Talking about nothing. What they talking about? Talking about nothing. This is nothing. This is nothing. This is nothing. He's goofing around. He's just goofing around. He's talking loud and saying nothing himself. Super lazy chorus. But this is my 2-year-old's favorite song because she loves Peekaboo. Pika who? Do I read this song do I read this book to my 2-year-old? Jigga what? I do it like that. Pika who? Pika what? Pika, you ready? Moo. Are you ready? Pika. Boo. Okay, are you ready? Pika. Zoo. Huh? Pika. What you got on this one, everybody? Pika Choo Choo. And then the best one. Pika You. Anyways, it's fun. It's simple. It's a simple idea, and it's super interlaced with AZ Chike. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey, hey. I'd like to also, once again, one more time, quote my my colleague. I don't know if we're friends. It feels like we're friends, but we've never actually met in real life. So I'll just say colleague for now, Justin Hunt. This is an album to listen to in your car. Just blast it in your car. Just because it doesn't matter if it's simple. It doesn't matter if it's a lazy chorus. It doesn't matter all this. This is to bang in your trunks. Then we get the Heart Part 6. Hey, Toby, do not lick the dog bed. So Bo releases material and Toby licks it off the dog bed, and it is just the most disgusting thing. I don't want you to have to even think about it on this nice Sunday afternoon. Listen, when this album came out, I was doing a live premiere, okay? Poor Sugar Pit. It's a great album. It was a good review. All the comments are, Skye, Kendrick drop, Skye, Kendrick drop. You know who else got squanked on this whole thing? It was Justin Hunt and I. We just made a whole video about who had a better year, TDE or Kendrick Lamar, okay? Justin released it like a half hour before this album dropped, so please go and watch that video. Here's me predicting the future. We recorded this 7 days ago, okay? 7 days ago we recorded this, and this is what I said back then.
You know, that might flip it, or if Kendrick, because Kendrick, you're saying he's recording.
Yeah, I don't think he's dropping yet, but
yeah, but he could drop tomorrow. He's that surprising.
See? Huh? I called it, sort of. Anyways, but yeah. So why am I talking about that? Because I think that was a great video. I think you should really watch it. And the thing that Justin and I really emphasized is that Kendrick versus TDE is intentionally a stupid argument. It doesn't actually make sense because they are friends. This whole song is a love letter to TDE. It is an oral history of TDE. And oh my God, this song is the biggest body on Drake there's ever been. Never has Drake been killed harder than he was on this song. He thought that he got the one up by doing the Heart Part 6, that song, which is the reason that this channel has 100,000 subscribers. Thank you, Drake. OVO forever. Don't clip that. But you think that that Kendrick could do a whole song where he's attacking Drake and saying, "How dare you take my thing?" No. His heart is other people. His heart is for the connections he's made, for the history, for the culture, all these details. Jack in the Box and Pepsi's. By the way, Jack in the Box doesn't sell Pepsi. They have a Coke license. So I don't know. Historical inaccuracy. Maybe he just didn't want people to think he's talking about cocaine. I don't know. And talking about how he was inspired by Ab-Soul, who probably released a better album than Kendrick did this year. And then J-Rock was his contemporary. And they all inspired Schoolboy Q, who definitely released a better album than Kendrick this year. You know, this whole idea of this building and this organic beginning and starting from nothing and the joy and the ambition and the growth and all these things, these connections that Drake doesn't have. And he never has to say his name. He never has to say it. He never has to talk about the King of Babylon. Because the King of Babylon doesn't even understand the joys of Israel, okay? Doesn't even understand how great it is to be in contact with Yahweh, okay? A whole verse to Dave Free. You mean the guy who... Wait, actually, if you look it up, Dave Free actually slept with Whitney. And I was... Shut up. Shut up. They free. They're friends. They hang out together. They work together. You think your little tiny shot at me is going to affect my friendship with Dave Free? Whole verse for Punch, who played his Phil Jackson, all about borrowing clothes from Soundwave. Let's go back to the Beatles. Can you imagine if the Beatles wrote songs about each other as kind after their breakup as this song is to TDE? Kendrick Lamar is the worst person to have against you. He will go after you and he will cut you to death with holy wrath. What does he do when he breaks up with his label? Does he do what Eazy-E did? I mean, what NWA did? What Eazy-E did? Do they go after each other and attack each other's labels? Snoop Dogg now owns Death Row, but he actually was angry at death row and would make fun of death row and would attack them. And that's what you do when you leave labels. You know, I'm me and I'm better and you're you and you suck. Mr. Holy Wrath, Mr. I'm me against everybody, Mr. I'm the best and fuck the big three, it's just big me, writes an entire love song to people with whom he is now in direct competition. Top Dog and PG Lang are in direct competition, but he understands that he does not want to destroy them because they are not wicked. They are the culture. They are part of New Jerusalem. You understand? Isn't it beautiful? Isn't it beautiful that this man who nobody fights harder than, nobody will punch you harder, that he's not bitter. He's not bitter. It's all love. And he explains his motivation, yearning for independence. He takes responsibility for the fact that Black Hippie didn't work. It's just beautiful. It's the opposite of beef. When you fight your enemies, fight them hard. When you're not fighting your enemies, do not fight. And that's how the song ends. To all my young uns, let me be the demonstration how to conduct differences with healthy conversation. If that's your family, then handle it as such. Don't let the socials gas you up or let your emotions be your crutch. Pick up the phone and bust it up before the history is lost. Handshake to handshake is good when you have a heart to heart. How to conduct differences with a healthy conversation. Okay? He just spent 2024 destroying Drake. He nuked it from orbit. If Drake were a planet, he would have gone down, killed all the inhabitants, nuked it from orbit, and then salted the land so that nothing could grow there. And here he is lecturing us how to conduct differences. Because this isn't war, this is differences. And then we get to GNX featuring Peso, hit a G3, Young Threat, simple piano beat, kind of a rough, almost like a Paul Revere. Actually, you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of a beat off of Chronic 2001. Just like one of the filler songs, because Chronic 2001's filled with great hits, but there's also just kind of like random ones filled with Hitman. Man, what happened to Hitman? What's up with Dr. Dre like having great rappers on his albums and then just like them just disappearing? Anyways, feel free to tell me in the comments what happened. Because he was the star of that album. Anyways, tell him Kendrick did it. Like, wow. I think he's going for another meme thing here. He sounds like Wario to me. And it's a posse cut for the West Coast. And Peso matches the beat really well. I'm not going to front. I first listened to this album in the car driving home from work. And I was like scrambling. And this was the first song I listened to off the album because I didn't know the order. I thought it was 50 Cent. I'm sorry. And in the end, I'm just some middle-aged white guy. I thought Hit a J3 was 50 Cent in the first listen. I mean, not by the end of the verse where he's talking about Rosecrans, but he talked about going to Scores. He talked about going to the strip club in New York. So I'm like, well, but no, when he's talking about Rosecrans, but in the very beginning, I was like, wow, but hey. Am I the only one? It's a great verse, though. He ties together Taliban, Iraq, Hussein. I'm tripping and I'm loving it. I like Young Threat at the end. And then the album ends with the most Mr. Morale stuff, which is Gloria. I like this because this is like a combination between Gloria and Sweet Love Songs, because the soundscape is very Sweet Love Songs. It's a very kind of sweet R&B style vibe, and when you listen to it the first time, you think it's about his complicated relationship with Whitney, but of course, it's actually about his pen, and I'm going to talk about that. By the way, if you are not English speaker, I apologize for this song, because it has a punchline, but his accent is so thick, you might not know what he's talking about. He says, never done a bitch, because my bitch is my pen. If I didn't speak English as a first language, I'd be like, what is ma pen? What is a ma pen? Is ma pen another word for woman? Ma pen. My bitch is my pen. Anyways, just putting that out there. And again, Rob Markman's quick reaction, that was not a podcast nor a review, points out how it's a lot like the song by Common, I Used to Love Her, and it's actually about hip-hop, kind of a Fight Club moment here. But I want to take a second to really dive into this, because this is weird. Because he says he doesn't want to do double entendres, but totally the complexity of the relationship that he's describing, based on what we know publicly about his relationship with Whitney, totally works with his relationship with the mother of his child. So it totally makes sense that it could be about either, okay? But it really is this question of forever and Gloria. Why is it called Gloria? Because it's glory that he's looking for. Glory is a confusing word because glory is what you give to God, but it's also what you seek from man, okay? It's a complicated thing. Glory is fame. It's the opposite of giving glory to God. When you are trying to get glory for yourself, to show that you are worthy of merit, you are doing that in spite of the fact you should be giving all glory to God. But he's not trying to give all glory to God. He is trying to get glory for himself. Not fame, not money. He's trying to get glory. He's trying to get glory through his pen. It starts off, again, the whole album has the voice, the Mexican voice throughout all the way here. Barrera seeded Anita and you, talking about Anita Baker, tying together Anita Baker from the first song, because the whole goddamn album is actually way more thought out than we think, and don't you dare think it's just some simple thing that's just thrown out there, okay? Riding in my GNX. And it's amazing because his relationship to ambition and to his art is toxic. And he points out that other people wanted glory, wanted artistic greatness, but they were preoccupied playing John Madden and bullshit. I've said this for a long time. Women are going to be the greatest musicians because video games are too good. and young men these days, it's too hard to play CSGO for 8 hours. No one wants to learn to play guitar or master their craft. But it's kind of true. I mean, unless video games are more marketed. Video games are more marketed. It's not that... Obviously, girls and women play video games, but at a smaller rate because of marketing. Going back to Nintendo, that's how marketing did it. It's patriarchy. It's not nature. But still, you know, young women are growing up looking up to Billie Eilish and Taylor Swift and learning how to play music, and young men are playing Fortnite. But whatever, that's fine. But that's what it is, you know, and he didn't do that. He sacrificed everything for glory. He's sacrificing his relationships. And SZA is so good. I cannot believe how good SZA is. I loved her album last year, but I think she just keeps getting better. Her delivery, her phrasing, scared of forever, because that's the whole question. It's about forever. You want glory so you can live forever. And his anger with fame, and he rejects fame, and he rejects his art, and he says F you, and goes into an argue. And they get super epic with the third verse and all these goofy puns about a pen. Your favorite movie, isn't it Notebook? Because Notebook is many women's favorite movies because Ryan Gosling is hot and it's a well-written story. And then, you know, get them all booked. But I love it. You either heal or kill people. Like, that's what it is. Like, that's what artistic ambition can do. It can heal or it can kill. Chapter after chapter, all of these margins, both is true. It's clever. It's about getting this power, about getting this glory, and it's about his relationship to his own ambition. And I'm just going to say, if you're out there and you're looking up to this, just so you know, it's kind of a losing battle, because really happiness would probably come if he could figure out how to have the most important thing in his life be his human relationships and not his desire to be the best or to have glory. But anyways, that's my analysis. The car, the prophet, the rapper. I got some Patreon shout outs to give. I offer on, these are my Patreons. They help me to buy music, and I'm probably going to buy this if I can. Try not to see. I've probably got sweaty armpits right there. Got some new ones here. So I'm just going to start reading out these names and see if you can count how many there are, because this is the most people have ever asked for shout outs at the end of a video. Harlan T, Ron Von Don, Spicy Oreos, BSP, Paris Angelo, Dan Russo, Maya Weberin, Rusty Techie, AJ, loves Chicago hot dogs, Eric from Salem, Absentia, Robert M, David Wenzel, shout out for Maxi, Jay Fulker, stepdad, used to drive him around in a GNX, that's pretty cool, Sean McClag, Rippling Sun, Maybe Nikhil, Chris Marin, Mercury, Bonnie Bro, Jeff Caps, Iris Monroe, Landon, Lucas Felton, Diorosita Negrita, who suggested Grey Poupon, but I'm not doing Grey Poupon. Grey Poupon, that's somebody. Bisco, maybe. We're talking Edward Fallot, okay? Look it up. Golden Kuma, Quentin, Tatsumaki, Nupt, Tony, Carpet DM, Logan Henry, Jonas Bullcastle, Jack Dyson, Zach, Andrew Thompson, Sammy Baudelaire, Toby Repellent, Toby Repellent, Hunter Tice, Algorithm, George Calvin, who does drive around in an 87 Cressida wagon, Josephus, Nolan002, Zane Kordich, and Arvin Mendoza. This might be my longest video ever. I'll try to get it under 1 hour and a half. I'm going to go get my kids, and I'm excited. Tell me what you thought of the album. Smash like bucket, subscribe. And, hey, why is Darth Vader back there? Tell me in the comments. There's the camera.